Minutes with McNabb.
On this week's episode, I've got Stu Herrera, 95.5 KLOS DJ, talking rock and roll and so much more.
Minutes with McNabb.
How you doing? This is Sean McNabb from Minutes with McNabb. My guest today, Stu Herrera from 95.5 KLOS, 27 years in the radio business, DJ, production coordinator, you name it. This guy's done everything at KLOS. Welcome to the show, Stu.
Thanks, Sean. Good to see you, man.
Thanks for being here today, brother.
Yeah, of course. Take time out of my
Got a
day for
cool-
you.
You got a cool stash going on there, man. Look at that thing. I like it.
Yeah, it started out as a big old bushy face in the winter, and then I just kind of carved it out, and we'll see how long it sticks around, you know.
Totally understood. I get that. Brother, KLOS, one of the biggest radio stations in California. You know, they've been broadcasting since 1969. I mean, that's impressive, dude. I mean, tell me about being at KLOS for 27 years.
Yeah, well, I got here in 94 from KNAC. I was working at KNAC from 88. That was my first radio job. And for those of you who weren't around back in the day, KNAC was a heavy metal station in Long Beach. It was not a heavy metal station. It was the heavy metal station. Yeah, it was a bitchin' place to work. We didn't make any money, but dude, we ran LA. Anyway, so I put about 5 years in there, and then I got a phone call, whatever. It's a long story, but I came over to KLOS for more money, a lot more money. And I didn't know I honestly didn't think I'd last a year. I figured they'd figure me out and kick me to the curb. But yeah, I've been producing, you know, what I do is like all the window dressing for the radio station. Like my job number one is, I've done everything, but job one is, you know, all the bumpers and the IDs and stuff that go in between the songs that make the station sound fresh and all that stuff. I do that. All the promos and things that we're giving away, you know, trips and concerts and all that stuff, make that sound fun. Everything that's not a DJ talking or the music playing, you know, and there's a lot of commercials that I have to get involved with too. That's, a necessary evil. And then of course, you know, for over the years, just, you know, I've done shows and covered shifts and had my own show for about a year, which you were on, Sean. It was called Horns Up, and that was an awesome blast. Just throw out like a KNAC kind of format every Saturday night for a few hours. I'm not doing that right now, but I'm always chipping away, and I think I'll get it back on the air at some point. Anyway, yeah, that's my story.
Stu, I got to ask you, this picture's totally rock and roll, and going back to my single days, I get it, but what the hell is happening in this photo?
Well, that's a photograph. Let me back up. So I actually do voiceover. You know, I have a voiceover agent and stuff, and I actually do better financially with my voiceover than I do at the radio station. But you know, I love radio, so I stay here. But anyway, in voiceover, you really can't afford to like go on vacation and you just tell your clients and your agents that you'll be unavailable. It doesn't happen, at least not at the level that, you know, that I'd like to work at. So, you VO guys don't get to go on vacation, or when you do, you have to bring your gear with you. And, in that particular, photograph, that's me in a hotel room somewhere on Highway 1. And, you know, gotta try and as best you can sort of emulate the sonic characteristics of a sound booth, an isolated booth. It can't be all echoey and reverberant. You do what you got to do. And in that case, I had to build myself a little fort on the bed and underneath the blankets and stuff, so that I had, a good, close, usable sound. And whoever was there snapped that photo. Thank you.
Whoever was under the sheets or the
no, it was me, just me alone with a microphone under the sheets. There was probably my girlfriend or something took the photograph from the other direction.
Oh man, that's awesome, brother. Portable sound booth.
Yeah, that's the price you pay to be in voiceover. It's called the golden handcuffs, and VO is a great gig. You can make a lot of money at it, if you're fortunate and talented. But the rub is, once you're in, you can't get out, or you can't. Well, like I said, you find yourself doing things like building forts in the bed.
So, Stu, what did you listen to growing up, and what kind of shaped you, musically to want to get into music and the radio biz?
Probably all the same stuff you grew up on too. I grew up here in Orange County, so on the radio it was KLOS and KMET and K-Rock, and at the time it was KEZY in Anaheim, and it was just rock and roll on the radio. I have an older brother who's 8 years older than me, so thank God he was there to kind of funnel the stuff towards me. He wasn't really much into the harder rock stuff, which I found on my own and, got from my friends and stuff. But, Joe made sure I had all the essential stuff. I mean, like our first record was a Sergio Mendes in Brazil 66 record, which does not sound like the right stuff. But he had Elton John and records of the day, a lot of Beach Boys, a lot of Beatles, and all that kind of stuff. And eventually you had a guitar kicking around at house that got handed down to me. And I'm just one of many radio people who are just frustrated musicians. We didn't make it as a rock star, so we found some way to kind of get peripheral to the action and, get a little gleam off of guys like you, Sean.
Oh man, no way. You're too kind, but I know you sing. And was that something that you and your brother were doing, growing up and hearing these great records and stuff like that?
Yeah. We sang a little bit. We were never in the same bands. My brother used to play in a band with John Stamos for a while. And that I remember being at their rehearsals and just getting blown. I'd never been in front of a rock and roll band or any band probably at that point. Up until that point, it had all been like church choir for me. So, I took the singing from the choir, and the bug, that rock bug really got into me strong at that point. So I got into bands later on with my, friends in high school and stuff, and, played a lot of fun parties. We had put a band together with the guys from KNAC, and it was a cover band, but geez, dude, we had so much fun playing all over LA, and we never played to less than a packed, sold out house because we had a radio station at our disposal to let people know about our gigs. I mean, I don't even think we ever printed a flyer. I was going to say, and I wound up playing a few gigs with the guys, Gonzo and Phil from Armored Saint. That was a lot of fun. We played with Zoe Bonham, a bunch of gigs, and I was in a band. I haven't been in a band in a while, though.
And I'm so glad you brought up KNAC, because, that was a radio station that was special, and they really got behind the local rock scene, and the LA bands. And I felt like, people like Ton Mastery, the late great Ton Mastery, yourself. I mean, you guys always had our backs as a radio station, promoted our gigs. It was just that doesn't exist anymore, and that was a really special time in LA radio, and it was all rock and roll, man. So I'm so glad you brought that up about KNAC.
Yeah. We didn't, that was not just a radio job for people. Like, we walked it, we lived it. We, I remember this would never happen, but I started out as at KNAC answering the phones for free as a volunteer, and then I worked my way up, right? But that first meeting that I got, and I sat down very nervous, like, what could go wrong? It's just a volunteer position. But here's what I'm getting at. The first question they asked me wasn't about my radio experience or whether I could answer a phone or this. The first thing they wanted to know was, what were my favorite bands? And I knew right then I was in the right place.
Dude, I got to ask you this, and it's totally out of order, and my questions and stuff, but tell me about like the freakiest call-in caller or request that you ever had, like your version of Play Misty for me or something,
Wow. Let's see. I never, God, knock on wood, I've never had a stalker or any bad listener that I can think of. I will tell you that there were shenanigans that went on at KNAC that were just, you think about them, you assume that they happen, but they don't really happen. But they did happen at KNAC, and the booth was situated in such a way that you could see in advance if anybody came down the hallway from the main door, or if anybody came in the side door, you knew it, and you had advance warning. So when my boss Pam Edwards gave me a shot at doing the overnights, after the initial jitters got away and I got used to it and stuff, I started taking liberties with the freedom. So, we would go off, if some Def Leppard song was supposed to come up right then for the billionth time, like, I think Except Fast as a Shark would sound pretty good right here. What do you think, sweetheart? And there'd be, I had a girl, I had a girlfriend at the time in there, and we left our mark in that studio, as I'm sure we all did.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to put on Freebird and let it go, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome, brother. Hey, dude, when I was growing up, it was this station Q95 in Indianapolis, and the great Ace Cosby. I don't know if you know Ace, but just a radio legend. Yeah, and there was things like the King Biscuit Flower Hour. There was like Dr. Demento. This is early radio. And I know you're hip to all that stuff. Did you grow up listening to the Flower Hour and stuff like that?
Dude, yeah, hell yeah, dude. King Biscuit was on, those were both, I believe, on KMET. I was glued Sunday nights from 6 to 10 to KMET. Dr. Demento was my man, dude. And I think maybe after Dr. D was over, then the King Biscuit Flower Hour would start up. But I don't remember all the shows that I heard on King Biscuit. There was so much content being put out in that day. But man, Dr. Demento turned us all on to Weird Al Yankovic and Tom T-Bone Stankus, and so many more. The old, the new, everything that was coming out at the time. God, I miss him. He was so cool. I got to meet him a couple years ago. He was a really nice guy, and he was in full costume.
Really? Where'd you meet him?
He came down. He came down to the station. I don't remember who he was there to see. It wasn't, I think he might have been, at the time, we're in a different building now, but at the time we were across the street from Westwood 1. So I think he came down and was doing something there. But when we heard that Dr. Demento was out in the parking lot, like I think he was waiting for his ride or something, dude, I tore out there. I'm like, oh, like a little like Captain freaking Kangaroo dropped by or something. So I got a picture with him, and like a fanboy. And, he was really nice and complimentary. I think he's stoked that people, still remember him and love him. And I never did get what he was doing down there.
Dude, that is so cool, man. You were just talking, and you were reminding me, you look like the bass player in Triumph. Got Rick Emmett, Gil was the drummer. Who was the bass player in Triumph, man? You kind of got that look going on like the line.
Yeah.
With the
Tony, I want to say Tony Levin. Is that Is it
No,
11?
no, King
No,
Crimson.
2011
But
Ball.
anyway, you are channeling your bass player in Triumph look, which, dude, Triumph was a band that I really dug. How about yourself?
Hell yeah, dude. Never Surrender is like my favorite Triumph album for sure.
Yeah.
Um, I can't say, I don't think I ever saw them by the time Rick split in what, like 86, 87. And
Yeah.
I missed the Triumph window. They killed it at the US Festival. I know that.
I think my favorite album was Rock and Roll Machine. I think that was their first record. But for those who don't know, Triumph was this Canadian band. It was a three-piece trio from Canada, and they're just killer, man. It was Rick Emmett, basically. And wait a minute, it's coming. Mike Levine.
Mike Levine.
And the
I
drummer,
knew it was a Levin Levine kind of thing. Okay, I don't feel that bad.
and Gil Moore was the drummer. I
Yeah.
like talking about great bands like that. I know you do too, man.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to those early radio days and the stations we all grew up with. But you've seen it change from that to this broadcasting in HD, and I know you being on the production side. How has that affected things? And tell me about that.
Well, yeah, HD broadcasting hasn't really affected anything, but what has affected my life is now that we stream
Right.
our content, you can listen on the FM or you can listen on your computer or your phone or whatever. And what happens is when the music stops and we go to a commercial break, those two methods of listening, you hear different things on the stream than you hear on the FM. And so naturally, obviously on the FM, you hear the promos and the commercials and stuff. And on the stream, we have to come up with content to push onto that stream. So you're not sitting there listening to dead air or the same commercial over and over, but you wouldn't be hearing this commercial because there are very, very few commercials on the stream. So that's become a big pain in my ass, but it's it's good that there's more than one way to hear the station. I mean, we got listeners in Germany and Japan and Australia. We have listeners all over the world. It's kind of pretty amazing.
I'm curious about this with all the streaming stations and your Sirius XM and all the endless channels and stuff. How has that affected your institution stations like KLOS and your big ones like that? It has to have affected it somehow, right?
Well, the perception is that, it's more competition and, it signals, the death knell of FM or something. And I don't think that's true. Yes, it is true that people have other things to listen to. But for FM is at least, just breaking it down to the people that live here in Los Angeles and Southern California, radio listening is still super duper strong. Most people can't stream in their car. I mean, maybe that is slowly starting to change, but still the majority of people are still listening to radio in their car. And if we put on a product that is compelling and entertaining, and then, we can still retain all the listeners that we want. Because we will still be their favorite thing to listen to. The thing that a lot of the Pandoras and the Spotifys and stuff, what they haven't figured out a way to do is to have that human connection. It's just a jukebox. And I mean, I love listening to my iPod or CDs and stuff too. But after a while, you want to hear somebody who lives, who's experiencing the world as you're experiencing it too. So whatever that is, news or chat, whatever they're talking about, or just hear a familiar, friendly voice that, that isn't being piped in. It hasn't pre-recorded from some other place in the country, because there's lots of that going on too. Everything you hear on KLOS is happening on KLOS. So when it's raining, or when something awful's happened or something great has happened, we can all share that and talk about it together.
And I love that. It's the DJ always brought something personal or a backstory to the song that people might not have known. And I listened to Mark and Brian for years in the morning, sure. And and Brian lived right down the street from me, so we got to be buds and stuff.
Oh, no
And
kidding.
yeah, and I don't know if you knew this, but he was a drummer as well. He kept inviting me, come down to my jam, down the street. Somehow I never made it. But what did you have a relationship with those guys? And tell me about what that
Oh,
was like.
sure. Yeah, I got here in '94. They had been here for about 6 or 7 years, I guess, 7 years.
Yeah.
And they were around till 2012. I was probably a little closer with Mark, I suppose, than Brian. I don't hear from Brian that often. I see him every now and then. Unfortunately, it seems like I always run into him at a funeral. But I saw them a couple of years ago, and we had a special. I think it was their 25th anniversary, or would have been their 25th or I don't remember. It was for some reason they came down to the station, and we did like what do you call it? A anniversary broadcast. And it was great to see the guys. And yeah, I had a lot of fun, working with those guys. I made their show intros, and, they do contests and stuff. There was one called You Can't Win. I had a fun time doing this stupid little jingle for it. I mean, it's such, I don't want to demean what I do here, but in a lot of ways, it's very hacky, and maybe it doesn't sound that way on the air to the average listener. But Sean, I mean, I'm not making Led Zeppelin records here, but I'm making dumb little jingles and things to introduce show segments, and it's such a fun, goofy job at times. And anything that you were going to do for Mark and Brian had to be dumb and fun and kind of funny, and probably after the 100,000th time it got to be annoying.
I love that, dude. And I always wondered this too, who made those intercut pieces and things like that, and that would have been you.
That was me.
Tell me about, I'm sure you've done your fair share of the commercials over the years and stuff. And was that like extra bread for you guys? Was that all in a day's work, or how did that work?
That's part of your job here. If there is something that they want you to do, what's called an endorsement. So it's like, hey, I'm Stu, and boy, I love the Sleep Number bed, and here's why. Then that goes beyond the realm of just me not saying my name and pitching reading a script to an endorsement thing. So that's a way that it could be extra dollars. We're lucky. We work at a union shop, so there are rules.
Sure. And I'm sure you've done a ton of commercials. Is that fun, or is that tedious? What's that like?
Well, it can be tedious, yeah. At the local level, at radio stations and radio buying, sometimes you get. It's funny. The people who spend the most amount of money require very little. I don't know what it is, and then that there's a script or there's a commercial. Hell, if they're spending that much money, they just send you a dub of the spot that they've had produced somewhere else, and you just throw it on. But the mom and pop, or I don't want to say mom and pop, but whatever, the smaller spenders who are spending their quote unquote lunch money on radio commercials, they can be tricky because, they're not savvy, but they want to be savvy. Everyone's an expert. So we try to guide them a little bit, like, we think this would probably be your best approach, and this will work, better than that. So you might have changing things a lot of times, and yeah, it's not as fun as the other stuff. I'll put it that way.
Right on. Tell me about some of the, I know you've done a lot of celebrity interviews and had people on, some of the biggest rock stars there are, and any standouts for you?
Oh man. Well, I have interviewed a few people, for when I was doing Horns Up, and Ace Frehley came down. That was awesome. And oh gosh, I had yourself, Sean, that time. I was very nervous that morning, that evening.
Yeah.
Steve Priest from Sweet was somebody that I had been wanting to interview for a long, long time. He actually came down to Mark and Brian years before, and they liked him and stuff, but like they weren't into Sweet like I'm into Sweet, like you're probably into Sweet. And, you know, Steve was the guy out here in LA. So I'm like, dude, I've got to get you on the air. So when I finally did manage to get him on the air, he came down with Mitch and Stuart and all the guys, I think, in the band came down, but it was, you know, pretty much the Steve show. And it was really cool to get some FaceTime with him.
Dude, Horns Up was cool. That was your own thing on Saturday nights. And I know you had a ton of guests, and I really enjoyed doing that. And Horns Up was just kind of your baby on Saturday nights, right?
Yeah. I'd been dying to get that show on the air for such a long time. And I don't want to say my timing was wrong, but maybe it was. I mean, whatever, man. When they said I had an opening to do it, I wasn't going to say, well, is the timing right? I was like, fine, let's go. So we went for a year. But yeah, we had like, you know, consultants and other voices who were not happy with the kind of music that I was playing. And, you know, you got to play the hits. Like, dude, I'm not playing Enter Sandman and Pour Some Sugar on Me. We do that all week long. This is a show for, you know, to play the deep classic metal and hard rock stuff. So that's what I did. And that's what I do again. Actually, you know, this might be a better time for it. We've kind of, I mean, that was 5 years ago now, and things have changed. We're owned by a new company. We don't have the same corporate overlords that we did before. I mean, we have different challenges now, but one thing, if you listen to KLOS, gosh, there's so much new music and deep cuts, especially like in the middle of the day, like at noon at the lunch hour. Oh my God, I was driving in. I mean, and I work here. You'd think I'm be jaded to all of it. And I was like, hell yeah, dude. It was just bam, just one killer track after another. We played Somewhere in Time from Iron Maiden. We played the brand new Offspring. We played, well, dude, in this space, just to pick three out of the air. I heard us play Somewhere in Time, Iron Maiden. I heard us play that new Offspring song, Let the Bad Times Roll. And I heard us play Dr. John, Right Place, Wrong Time.
Oh man.
I mean, dude, that's awesome radio, in my opinion. That's if you can't get down with that, you're not a rocker.
Exactly, man. That's like all of the best genre, you know, all the best genres of music right there. I always dug that stations that didn't pigeonhole themselves into just metal or just, you know, and you guys have always kind of tried to play a nice, you know, mix of all those great classic songs. I mean, dude, Boston still comes on the radio, and I get a hard on, man. Those records, they still sound fucking amazing, you know. And Skinner, and you know, you guys have always played those bands, and you continue to, of course, AC/DC, but you guys have always played your share of Deep Purple. But you know, there's something to be said for those vinyl records, man, and they're just warm and they're fat. And which leads me to my next question. Stu, why does music matter?
Oh, wow. I didn't even know how to answer that. It's like, why does air matter? Why does being alive matter? I mean,
beautiful. Yes.
Yeah, that's music's everything, man. You know, I just can't imagine life without it. I have music in like almost in every room of the house right now. I got a radio station. I got a crazy college radio station on in the garage 24/7. It's just always on, kind of at a low level, because you never know what you're going to get from KXLU. And then inside we've got, you know, music downstairs, and then upstairs in my bedroom I've got another player. So I had like Armored Saint playing this morning, God knows what playing in the garage at the same time. And then out in the kitchen, we told Alexa to, I don't know, play like, actually I've been having her play a lot of classical music lately. I got onto a Planets Trip. So I'm digging the Holtz, the Planets. Don't quiz me.
Man, that That's awesome. And, I think music, I've been like, I was talking on my last interview about like these things right here, looks like
Mhm.
wood and some strings and stuff, but God, they've taken me all over the world, it's, and there's been these times where like people have come up to me and gone, dude, that song changed my life, or, I got married to that song, or, we played that at my wedding, and things like that. It just really affects you. And, you go to other countries and they're just like so thankful that you came, and they're like, you have no idea what it means that you guys came down here to Australia or to the UK or whatever. And I just think music, what it does at the end of the day is it brings people together. And for you
That
to be a
was-
part of that for 27 years, man, that's got to feel good.
Yeah, I don't get. I mean, what's great about and different about what we do. We get phone calls, so there's some instant gratification, or there's some what's called like reaction stuff. But that's not the word I'm looking for. But when you go out and you play live music in front of people, and then you see them afterwards, I mean, damn, man, that feedback that you get from right there, like you're really hitting people right in their soul, and that's to get the feedback from those guys. That's not a thing that I usually hear too much. We occupy a different kind of space, but yeah, that's really cool, Sean.
Yeah, but you guys are the ones that play it, and you bring something personal to it. That's what I always dug about DJs, is just that they bring some inside scoop that the normal listener maybe wouldn't know. And I'm going to ask you about, I'm sure you played a lot of Van Halen in your day. And
Yeah.
tell me what that means to you. And, God rest Eddie Van Halen's soul. This last year, it's been heavy for all of us, but talk to me about Van Halen.
Still so weird to reckon with him being gone. I don't know if you know this, but I was out. I wasn't here yet, and I was pedaling my bicycle, which we can talk about that later. And I got a text from my boss saying, "I need you ASAP to get down here to the station." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm on my way. What's up?" And Eddie Van Halen has died is the next text I got. And I was like, I mean, I just went numb all over, and I'm starting to. Anyway, so I pedaled my ass home as fast as I could. Our normal midday jock was out that day. And there wasn't anybody manning the ship, so to speak. Like Frank from the morning show was still here, and I think that he mentioned it once or twice, but he was on his way out. So when I got here, I held down the whole afternoon, and I was the guy who had to tell a lot of people that Eddie Van Halen had died. And of course, when I got in, it was, I mean, he didn't even have to tell me. It's like drop the format, drop all the music logs and stuff. We're playing Van Halen. Go, just pull and play. Take phone calls, put them on the air, and this is what we're going to be doing for at least. We played Van Halen straight for either 48 or 72 hours, nothing but Van Halen, and I was broke up on the air. I was near tears, talking about it, and oh man, but. That music, I mean, geez, man. Yeah, I don't know if kids get it. Like if you missed it at that zone in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, because I loved Van Hagar too. Like if you weren't born till a couple decades later, I think it's just like a select bunch of kids kind of get it. But man, if you weren't there, like Van Halen is just the sound of everything good. I had a buddy in high school that we got in trouble in, and I'll never forget this. I don't know, he was being sent to the principals or something, and he was going to throw on Van Halen on his Walkman. He says, "Dude," he says, "don't worry about it. Like I'll see you in a couple of days. I'm probably getting busted." And he says, "But it's okay. I got Van Halen 2 in here, and Van Halen makes everything better." And he's right, man. Just that's the sound of happiness to me.
You know, you hit it on the head. It was all, those songs were all about good times. They bring back, for the most part, good memories, you know,
Yeah.
and it was fun, you know, and I think it was a different time too when, you know, Van Halen came out. You really wanted to go see them in concert. You wanted to experience that magic that they had, you know, captured, that Ted Templeman captured on those records. And
Yeah.
it really made you want to go out and see the show. You know, I think um, video hadn't really kicked in yet, you know, there. So you had to go see the show. You know, you wanted to be a part of it. And of course, the girls liked it, and you know, you wanted to be a part of that too. But yeah, what a game changer with the Van Halen, you know, and all those records, and they're all just such masterpieces. And that must have been a
Amazing.
special day for you.
Yeah. 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 It was. You know,
You'll
it's just
never
amazing.
forget.
You know, the thing that brought the four Beatles together, and like, what are the odds? You know, and it's the same thing with Van Halen. Like, Van Halen wouldn't have been Van Halen without each one of those guys. Like, there's nobody. You know, well, obviously they did replace David Lee Roth eventually, but like those first 6 records are freaking magic, man, magic,
Oh
and
yeah,
like the odds that those guys came together. I mean, who didn't want to be Eddie Van Halen and or David Lee Roth? Or really, hell, man, I'd have been happy to be, I'd been happy to be anybody in their orbit, you know?
exactly. Man, I don't know how you held that together that day and steered the ship, but and took calls but kudos, brother. That must have
Yeah.
been quite a day.
It was, yeah, that was a pinnacle day in my broadcasting career. It was,
Yeah.
it was kind of indescribable.
Yeah. All right. So let's see. I'm going to talk about something that you and I both enjoy, and it is riding motorcycles. And
Yeah.
it was so cool to hang out with you over the last weekend and go out and do that. That was so much fun with the ladies and stuff. But I know you're a passionate motorcyclist, and you've also helped us out quite a bit with the Dio Ride for Ronnie and stuff, and been a
Oh,
part of
yeah.
that, and the station really gotten behind that. But talk to me about the motorcycling. You know what it means to you, and
Man, I ride my motorcycle almost daily. I have 3 bikes, and usually when we get together, I'm on the Harley because that is what makes sense. But if the Harley's broken down, which who hasn't had that happen, it's good to have other bikes. I'm on my Yamaha almost daily. Today, I'm actually in my car, but most days I ride a motorcycle. I freaking love being on 2 wheels. I pedal a bicycle, or I throttle a motorcycle, and I'm happy. No matter, almost anything else could be going haywire and, you know, all wrong. But if I got gas in the tank and the thing is you know, running well, it can't be that bad. What was I going to say? It was I started when I was 16. You probably started,
yeah,
I don't know, about maybe about that time.
a little bit younger, but yeah, close enough.
Yeah. Yeah. I had my buddy had a Honda 400, and I learned to ride on his bike. Like, we worked at Wendy's together. And so out in the parking lot, this guy was crazy. He just gave me the keys and goes, "There, go figure it out." I'm like, fuck. Okay.
Right.
And I did crash his bike, and it was cool, man. I don't know why we're not friends today, but, and then I didn't get my own motorcycle until 98. I got a 94 Sportster that my brother had found in Albuquerque with like 5,000 miles on it. Somebody's wife, I think, bought it, figured out motorcycling wasn't for her, and so I got this bike, and that's still the bike that I ride today. I've modified it a billion times, and that's my girl. I freaking love that bike, man.
Yeah, man. I got a garage full. I got 3 too, and it's It's something that we've been able to enjoy together, and I always say two things when I get on a motorcycle. I say, God, give me safe travels today, and then
Yeah.
I say, let everything else just fade away, and it usually does. If I'm going through something or overthinking something, as we often do, that immediately just disappears into the ether, and we get out there and we get some brotherhood on, and it just, what do they say? You never see a motorcycle outside a shrink's office.
That's right. It's
You know?
absolutely right.
And I think
Yeah, it's
that's,
almost like playing music, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. We took a pretty bitchin' ride out to the poppy fields, California poppy fields, this last weekend with a really nice group, and we'll call them the Hollywood Riders. And it's just a name that somebody came up with, and it kind of
Yeah.
stuck. And Stu's one of the bunch, and we took the ladies. It was really cool, and I think everybody needed that. We're coming out of this COVID thing, and it was just good to get together and have some brother and sisterhood and hang out, and people could have a
Yeah,
few
yeah.
cocktails, celebrate, and have some food. It was great.
We had a good number of guys and girls on bikes. There was like, I don't know, 10, 12, 14 of us or something.
Yeah, we had a good group, man. It was friggin' awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, all right, man. Let's see. What would you? Let's say a young kid comes up to you and wants to get into broadcast, and says, I want to be like Stu Herrera, man. I want to be on the radio. And what would you say?
Oh man, I don't know. I don't know if I'd encourage him too much. I'm sure I would. I would say this. You really, really got to know that you want to do this and you are going to love radio. I mean, whatever, if you figure out that you don't like it as much as you thought you did, then you can always find the door. But yeah, it's, I don't want to discourage anybody, but it's not as crazy and fun as it used to be. It's probably not as crazy and fun as you think it is. It's it's work, it's a job and stuff. And especially right now, man, like events are, obviously not happening. But yeah, the whole, like, used to be, dude, like, okay, just to take one aspect of it, free concert tickets. You think they just grow on trees at a radio station, and they did, but they don't like they used to. Part of that is due to the fact that our particular radio station is not quite as plugged into the local scene, which the local scene itself is not as on fire as it used to be. I'm thinking back to the KNAC days. I mean, there was take your pick, Sunday through Saturday, every day of the week, you could go anywhere and there was somebody playing. There's lots of somebody's playing in lots of places. It's not quite that same way now, at least in rock and roll. So what I'm driving at is that there were always concert tickets. Geez, man, we would, we were throwing them away. So they're not as many shows to go to, and whatever. That's just a fact of it is. And when the Rolling Stones come to town, there's a few tickets that you can get your hands on, but it's a hard ticket to get. I don't care who you are. And I know you've run up against that sometimes too. Sean, would you say overall that tickets flow like water as they used to?
They don't. Also, anytime you play in your hometown, everybody comes out of the woodwork and wants free tickets, and that's just a fact of life. So you kind of have to take care of your family and, maybe a couple close brothers, but you kind of got to turn your phone off when you're playing LA. And I will say this too. I've paid to see the Stones. The Stones are the only band that I will pay to see just because they're so near and dear to my heart. And, who knows how much longer they're going to be able to do it. And I've paid $350, $400 to see the Stones, and it was worth every fucking penny, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the only band that I will do that for. But you know, I think we're going to come out of this, you know, in September, and shows are going to start up, and venues are going to open, and a lot of healing is going to be made through music, and people getting to go to shows again. And you know, that's a big. The industry's taken such a hard hit, you know, and we've got to keep that going. You know, it's just that can't fall by the wayside, and these great venues that have paved the way for artists, it's got to continue.
Yeah, and I think it's going to come back strong, dude. Because people, I mean, I'd go through waves myself where I'd go to like everything for a while, and then I just kind of go, oh God, man, I just, hey, blah 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 show tonight. Nah, man, I've seen him before. It's cool, you go. But now, dude, I don't care who's coming. I'm going to every show I can go to, and I don't care if there's a list or I got to buy it. I'm fine, man. If I buy a ticket, I'm fine to do that.
Yep.
I think that the live concert scene is gonna be okay. Yeah, I mean, that wasn't even, I don't know, we kind of got off on a tangent because you asked me what advice I'd give to somebody, a young person who wanted to get into radio. And hopefully the prime reason they're going to want to get into radio is not to get free concert tickets. So maybe I started off on the wrong foot, but yeah, man, you're going to work a lot. You're going to work. Radio's a rewarding career. It's especially rewarding if you're, at least at this place, if you have a 13-year-old mind like me. So you get, just do dumb stuff, and it just, provides endless enjoyment source. But you're going to work for it for sure. So that's not much of advice, but that's what I'd say right now.
It's great advice, and anything good is worth working for. I think the answer of the day was, what does music mean to you? And you're like, music is air, man. That was it right there, bro. Dude, that's amazing. Okay, we're going to do something we do every week called the Full Throttle 5, and it's basically 5 questions, and you can answer them however you want. Okay, so who has been the most influential to you?
In everything, like
who's been the most influential to you in your career?
Let's see. What the most obvious answer I can come up with right off the bat is Thrasher. If you remember Thrasher from KNAC Mornings.
I do.
If I can tell this story real quick.
Sure.
It's because of Thrasher that I have this job, and it was because of Thrasher that I got my KNAC job, and he didn't even know me hardly at the time. The short story is I was an intern, and he was mornings, and, there was a full staff of people, and something happened, and he got pissed off, and he quit, like, on a dime. He just walked out. And what happened was everybody just kind of, filled in the gaps. So the midday guy got the morning gig, the night guy got the midday gig, et cetera, and the production position opened up for the intern, which was me. So, and then a few years later, after I'd, done a little bit better for myself, and I was now the production director at KNAC, but I was still making peanuts. He had been to KLOS and pirate radio, and he got to know a bunch of people in the larger Los Angeles radio market, and he came back to KNAC. And one morning he came into my studio and he goes, dude, I just got off the phone with the program director over at KLOS, and they're looking for a production guy. They're looking for you, and they don't know it. So here's what you're going to do. Here's a name, here's a number, get a tape together and give it to them, and you tell them that I sent you. And long story short, I got the gig. And it wouldn't have happened without him. So Thrasher is my guy. And I'm also happy to say that now he crashes. He's my housemate. I keep him under my roof. He's my bro, and I see him every single day.
Oh, man, that's cool. I love that.
Yeah, he's a great human being. He's such a great guy.
All right, Stu. Not all these questions are mine, so some of them are producers. So if you could have a
Okay.
billboard with anything on it that was about Stu, what would it say?
Oh, wow. It would say Stu Herrera voiceover, and it would have my agent's number, direct number.
Nice. All right. If there's one word you would like people to associate with you, what would it be?
Two wheel. That's not really one word, but that's what I've got right now.
Okay. We'll take it. We'll take it. All right. The producer's question. Who's the most famous person in your phone?
Ooh. Most famous person in my phone. Do I get to cheat and look, or do I have to? I'm not. Man, famous person in my phone. I'll go top three. Gilby, Phil
Okay.
X, Mike Inez.
All right. Awesome.
Which of those three are the most famous? I don't know.
I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. All right. Let's see. Finally, sorry, Joe. Hold a second. I got my paper out of work. Okay.
You got the papers out of order.
Yeah, it's all out of order. Stu? And finally, what are your passions outside of radio, man, in music?
Yeah, probably activities that take place on two wheels. So we covered the one with the throttle, and I love pedaling my bike. I do a charity ride every year for the Arthritis Foundation, where we pedal from San Francisco back home to LA. I do a lot of fundraising in advance of the ride, and I usually raise around $10,000. I usually raise no less than $10,000. Just fucking handing out, with not handing out anything, just with my hat out. I send out emails and I go on social, and I get people to sponsor my ride, and we do it over the course of 8 days. I usually train for it all, throughout the summer, just kind of get in shape for that kind of thing. We pedal an average of about 70 miles a day. So the easiest days is, I think there's one day where we just pedal like 50 miles. And then the longest day, there's a couple of days that I just stretch out to 100 miles. And that's a passion of mine. I fucking love pedaling my bike. And the other one is I like bodyboarding. I own a surfboard, but I prefer bodyboarding, or boogie boarding if people prefer. But I don't. We don't do it in the shore break. We paddle out to the lineup and snake surfers for waves.
Nice, man. Nice.
Yeah.
Thanks for always supporting the DO Cancer Fund. I know you guys have really helped us out in promoting that, and the Ride for Ronnie. And
we're going to do another one. I don't know if it's going to be this year, but maybe next year. I don't know. I haven't heard anything. Maybe
we're working on it. I'm on the board, so I'll let you know as soon as possible. But thanks for always being in our corner, and KLOS has been in our corner as far as promoting. And, we're going to keep fighting for a cure. Imagine if there were saliva strips to get cancer markers. And that's the fundraising that we're doing with UCLA, is to have a strip that would give you a marker, for early detection of cancer, because it's all about early detection. And I just want to thank you for helping us out with that, and always supporting our ride. And we're going to keep on continuing and keep that fight up, and hopefully we're going to find a cure one of these days. And Stu, I can't thank you enough for doing my Minutes with McNabb here today. It's a new venture, and you just jumped right in and said yes. And it really means a lot to me, and that you would come over here and do this for me and take time out of your busy day and over at KLOS. And I appreciate you, bro. And
Of course, brother.
thank you.
Yeah, I was flattered that you asked me, man. And of course, anytime you want to involve me, I'm there.
Right on, brother. And I want to thank my two producers, Angelo and Joe, because they put together a killer show. They'll edit all this up with anything that you want in there. And that's my guest, Stu Herrera from KLOS on Minutes with McNabb. Thanks so much, Stu.
See you, Sean. Thanks for having me on.